Right now, as you watch this, you are sitting on top of a graveyard, not of people, of worlds. Entire civilizations, some more advanced than ours that rose, dominated this planet, and were erased so completely that mainstream history pretends they never existed. Not one, not two, 12, and the evidence, it's not in conspiracy forums, it's on the ocean floor. It's in government satellite data. It's in stones that modern engineers say we still can't replicate today. Here's what they haven't told you. Number 1. Hyperborea civilization. Let's start at the top of the world, literally. Before the Arctic was a frozen graveyard of ice and polar wind, ancient Greek writers, Herodotus, Pindar, Pliny the Elder, described something astonishing in the far north. A civilization bathed in eternal sunlight, where the temperature never dropped, where rivers ran clear and harvests never failed. A place they called Hyperborea. Now, here's what you need to understand. These weren't fantasy writers spinning campfire tales. Herodotus was the ancient world's most disciplined historian. Pliny the Elder was Rome's equivalent of a scientific encyclopedia. And both of them wrote about Hyperborea the way we'd write about Canada, as a real physical place. They described the Hyperboreans as tall, almost luminous people, possessing knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and architecture that dwarfed anything their neighbors could produce. A civilization that built entire cities in the remote Arctic, when the rest of the world was still figuring out pottery. But here's the detail that stops everyone cold. In the 1500s, legendary cartographer Gerardus Mercator drew a map of the Arctic. On it, an ice-free continent, 4 massive rivers, a towering central mountain, a landmass that looks nothing like today's frozen wasteland, but maps perfectly onto what the ancient Greeks described. The question that nobody in academia wants to answer: how did a 16th century European mapmaker know what a pre-ice Arctic looked like? Unless he was copying, unless somewhere in his possession were documents far, far older from people who had actually been there. And today, ground-penetrating radar scanning beneath Greenland's ice sheet has detected geometric formations deep underground, patterns that look disturbingly intentional. So what happened to Hyperborea? The ancient texts say Earth's axial tilt shifted, and when it did, paradise became permafrost. The survivors fled south, carrying their knowledge like seeds scattered by wind. Some researchers believe those refugees seeded the very civilizations we're about to discuss. Number 2, the Maya civilization. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, in the steaming jungles of Central America, a civilization was doing something that should have been impossible. The Maya were calculating the orbit of Venus to within 6 hours of accuracy, over 500 years of observation, without a single telescope. They invented the concept of zero, which took old world civilizations centuries longer to develop. They built a pyramid at Chichen Itza that twice a year, on the exact dates of the equinoxes, casts a shadow in the precise shape of a descending serpent down the staircase. That isn't luck, that isn't guesswork, that is physics mastery embedded in stone. The Temple of Kukulkan has 365 steps, one for each day of the solar year. And acoustically, clap your hands at the base of that pyramid and the echo sounds like the chirp of the Quetzal bird, the sacred symbol of the gods. Intentional acoustic engineering, carved into limestone, by people who had no iron tools and no wheel. At their peak between 250 and 900 CE, Maya cities like Tikal and Palenque were full metropolitan powerhouses, home to tens of thousands of people with sophisticated trade networks, written language, and calendrical systems tracking time in cycles spanning millions of years. And then they just stopped. Around 900 CE, construction halted mid-project, temples were left unfinished, entire cities were quietly abandoned, not bombed, not burned, just emptied. Scholars argue over drought, over political collapse, over disease. But the Maya themselves, they dispersed into the jungle, leaving behind monuments that still stagger engineers today. Number 3, Atlantis civilization. If you know one lost civilization, it's this one. But let me reframe what you think you know about Atlantis, because most people get it wrong. In 360 BC, Plato published 2 philosophical dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, and in those texts, he did something remarkable. He didn't describe Atlantis as an allegory. He didn't frame it as myth. He specifically, explicitly stated it was a historical account, passed from Egyptian priests to the Greek statesman Solon, and from Solon's notes into his hands. Plato said Atlantis existed 0 years before his own era. That puts it at roughly 400 years ago. An island empire larger than Libya and Asia combined, located beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, concentric rings of land and water, walls plated in precious metals, naval dominance over the entire Mediterranean, and then, in a single night, earthquakes, floods, total annihilation. Gone for 400 years, scholars called it fiction, a teaching story dressed in geography, and then the evidence started showing up. In 2013, divers exploring underwater formations off the coast of Spain found circular structures that matched Plato's architectural descriptions almost exactly. 1 year later, near Sicily, a shipwreck yielded 84 ingots of a metal called orichalcum, a rare copper-zinc alloy that Plato specifically named as the metal coating Atlantis's walls. Scientists had previously dismissed orichalcum as mythological. There it was, on the ocean floor, real. Does that prove Atlantis existed? No, but it proves Plato wasn't just making things up. Number 4, Kumari Kandam civilization. While Europe was obsessing over Atlantis, on the other side of the planet, an entirely separate civilization was carrying its own version of the same story. The ancient Tamil people of southern India preserved oral and written accounts of a vast sunken continent they called Kumari Kandam, a landmass stretching from the southern tip of India all the way to Madagascar and Australia, 49 territories, 3 legendary literary academies, the birthplace of the Tamil language itself, which linguists today recognize as one of the oldest continuously spoken languages on Earth. According to the texts, some dating back to the 15th century but referencing traditions far older, 3 massive floods struck over thousands of years, each one devouring more land than the last. Survivors migrated north, bringing their culture, their language, and their knowledge with them. Now here's where it gets geological. 500 years ago, sea levels were roughly 400 feet lower than they are today. After the last ice age ended as glaciers melted worldwide, coastlines were drowned rapidly, catastrophically. Entire habitable landmasses vanished beneath rising oceans. And here's the part that makes this impossible to dismiss. Marine archaeologists have found submerged stone structures off the Tamil Nadu coastline. The ancient city of Punku, described in Tamil literature as a thriving port city that sank beneath the sea, was discovered underwater, exactly where the text said it would be. Sitting between India and Sri Lanka is a chain of limestone formations called Adam's Bridge, an 18-mile arc of shallow shoals that looks almost engineered. Scientists say it's natural. Tamil tradition says it's the remnants of a road built across a now drowned continent. The geology aligns, the floods align, the archaeology aligns. Number 5, Tiwanaku and Puma Punku civilization. Now we go to South America, specifically to the Bolivian Andes, 549 feet above sea level, in one of the most oxygen-starved environments on Earth. And here, something built structures that still make modern engineers go quiet. Tiwanaku was a thriving city of up to 20,000 people around 800 CE. They built pyramids, carved massive ceremonial gateways, and engineered sophisticated water management systems that, and this is not an exaggeration, still function today. A civilization at altitude, in thin air, managing water flow with the precision of a civil engineering firm. But it's the adjacent site of Puma Punku that turns everything sideways. 100-ton stone blocks, surfaces so flat and edges so precise that modern machinists who have examined them say the tolerances are tighter than what's achievable with standard hand tools. H-shaped interlocking grooves, right angles accurate to fractions of a millimeter, and not a drop of mortar. Just stone locked into stone with a perfection that borders on mechanical. Some researchers have proposed that certain blocks weren't carved at all, but poured. That the Tiwanaku people may have had a geopolymer technique, a way of casting rock into molds that produced what looks like machined stone. Archaeoastronomer Arthur Pesnansky spent decades studying the site and concluded from its stellar alignments that Tiwanaku was built not around 500 CE, but around 1500 BCE. Mainstream archaeology says that's impossible, but mainstream archaeology also said orichalcum was a myth. Number 6. MU civilization. Let's go even further out. In the 19th century, an archaeologist studying Mayan ruins came across references to an ancient motherland, a civilization the Maya themselves described as coming before them. A sunken continent they called Mu. The story exploded in 1926 when British-American writer James Churchward published a sweeping account of Mu, based on, he claimed, ancient stone tablets written in a dead language shown to him decades earlier by a temple priest in India. According to those tablets, Mu stretched across the Pacific Ocean from Hawaii to Easter Island, from the Marianas to well south of Australia. 64 million people, 7 major cities, a civilization he described as surpassing our own in key respects. Its end, the entire continent geologically collapsed, swallowed beneath 50 million square miles of ocean in a single catastrophic night, approximately 12,000 years ago. Science says continents don't sink like that. Plate tectonics doesn't work that way, and Churchward never produced those original tablets. But then there's Easter Island, 200 miles from the nearest populated land, with its massive moai statues aligned towards specific astronomical points, carved from stone that doesn't match the island's own geology. There's Nan Madol in Micronesia, an ancient city built atop a coral reef using basalt columns weighing up to 50 tons, transported across open ocean by a civilization with no recorded method of doing so. And there's the Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan, underwater stone terraces, right angles, and carved steps sitting 90 feet beneath the surface, with geologists still debating whether they're natural or artificial. Flood myths describing the same catastrophe appear in over 200 distinct world cultures, independently with eerily similar details. At some point you have to ask, what exactly are they all remembering? Number 7. Agartha's civilization. Now here's where we go somewhere truly strange. While every civilization we've discussed so far existed on the surface, one ancient tradition insists that the most advanced civilization of all exists below it. Agartha, the concept appears across traditions that had no contact with each other. Hindu texts describe the Nagas, serpent beings of extraordinary intelligence, living in a vast subterranean realm called Patala. Tibetan Buddhist scriptures describe tunnel networks beneath the Himalayas, leading to a hidden underground kingdom. Indigenous peoples across multiple continents speak of ancestors who came up from the earth, not down from the sky. In the 17th century, astronomer Edmund Halley, the man we named Halley's Comet after, formally proposed that Earth might be hollow, containing nested spheres lit by their own internal luminescence. By the 20th century, the idea was taken seriously enough that the Nazis sent multiple expeditions to Tibet, specifically searching for entrances to this underground world. The CIA during the Cold War conducted classified research in the same regions. Today, certain areas around Tibet remain blurred or restricted on commercial satellite imagery. Ground Penetrating radar surveys in those regions have hinted at massive underground structures that don't match known geological formations. Modern seismology tells us Earth's core is solid metal. Believers respond that Agartha may exist in cavern systems within the crust itself, or in dimensions beyond what our instruments are designed to detect. Real, probably not in the literal sense, but the convergence of global traditions pointing to the same underground civilization independently across thousands of years that needs an explanation. Number 8. The Akkadian Empire civilization lets ground things back in verified history and reveal a mystery hiding inside it. Around 2334 BCE, a man named Sargon of Akkad did something no one had ever done before. He conquered every city, state in Mesopotamia and unified them under a single ruler. The result was the world's first multi-ethnic, multi-lingual, multi-regional empire, the Akkadian Empire, stretching from the Mediterranean Sea to the Persian Gulf. The Akkadians didn't just conquer, they standardized. They created what historians believe was the world's first postal system. They built administrative infrastructure that every empire after them, Persian, Greek, Roman, essentially copied. They were the blueprint. Sargon's own origin story is almost suspiciously familiar. Abandoned as an infant in a reed basket on the Euphrates River, rescued and raised by a working-class family, rising through royal service to seize power. If that sounds like Moses, that's because it does. Biblical scholars have noted the parallel for over a century. The Akkadian Empire ruled for more than a century before droughts, crop failures, and internal rebellion tore it apart around 2218 BC. But here's the kicker, the mystery that still haunts Mesopotamian archaeology. The capital city of the Akkadian Empire, Akkad, has never been found. The world's first empire, the city from which it was governed, gone. And in 4,000 years of archaeological excavation across Iraq and surrounding regions, not a single confirmed ruin of it has been unearthed. The seat of the world's first superpower is still missing. Number 9 and 10. Avalon and Shambhala civilization, two civilizations. Two legends, both described not as myths, but as real hidden places that may still exist. Avalon first appeared in written form in 1136 in the Chronicles of Geoffrey of Monmouth, a respected historical writer, not a fantasy author. He described it as an island of extraordinary fertility, where King Arthur's sword was forged, and where the king himself was taken after his final battle to be healed. The magic of Avalon wasn't sorcery. It was described more like advanced botanical and medical knowledge that appeared supernatural to outside observers. The leading candidate, Glastonbury Tor in Somerset, England, a hill surrounded by ancient marshland that in earlier centuries would have appeared as an island. Neolithic artifacts have been excavated there. The spiral terraces winding up its hill have stumped geologists for decades. Natural formation or deliberate earthworks. Nobody agrees, and medieval texts place Avalon's territory precisely between the hill ranges that bracket Glastonbury. Shambhala is a different kind of hidden. Tibetan Buddhist scripture describes it not as sunken or burned, but as concealed, protected by 8 concentric mountain ranges somewhere between Tibet and Mongolia. The texts don't give spiritual metaphors, they give rivers, valleys, distances, compass bearings. People have died looking for it. In 1963, a Tibetan monk named Tulshuk Lingpa led 12 disciples on an expedition to find Shambhala's entrance in the Himalayas. The group was never seen again. In the 1930s, Nazi expeditions to Tibet were searching for both Agartha and Shambhala simultaneously. Soviet and American intelligence agencies ran parallel programs in the same regions during the Cold War. Madame Blavatsky, Hungarian scholar Sandor Kőrösi, and explorer Nicholas Rower, which all dedicated years, in some cases their entire lives, to finding it. Roerich's 1925 Central Asian expedition was secretly funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and may have been partially a Shambhala search mission. Whether physical or metaphysical, the obsession with Shambhala has driven more serious, educated, state-funded expeditions than almost any other mystery in history. Number 11. Iram of the Pillars civilization hidden under the Arabian desert lies one of the most dramatic vanishing acts in recorded human memory. Iram of the Pillars, referenced in the Quran itself, was a civilization that dominated the southern Arabian Peninsula between roughly 3000 and 2000 BC. Built on the trade of frankincense and myrrh, the most valuable commodities of the ancient world, Iram wasn't just rich. It was architecturally defiant, columns of a scale and precision that became legendary across the ancient world. Vast halls, fortifications designed not just for defense but as declarations, "We are permanent, we will not fall." That arrogance, the ancient accounts say, is precisely what destroyed them. No invading army, no recorded war. The desert simply reclaimed them. Geological analysis suggests catastrophic sandstorms or sudden climate shifts buried the city under layers of sand so deep it vanished without a trace. In 1992, satellite imagery detected what appeared to be the remains of a massive ancient city buried beneath the sands of Oman's Rub al-Khali Desert. Archaeologists excavating the site found an octagonal fortress with towers matching classical descriptions of Iram almost exactly. The site, now called Ubar, was buried under centuries of sand and had only become visible from space. A city so legendary it appeared in the Quran, and we only found it because a satellite looked down at the right angle. Number 12, Sumer civilization, and then there's the one that brings all of this together, the civilization that didn't evolve into greatness, but simply appeared with it already fully formed. Sumer, around 4500 BC, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now southern Iraq. The Sumerians emerged with cities, written language, codified law, mathematical systems, astronomical records, and monumental architecture, all apparently at once. There is no archaeological record of a developmental period. No gradual progression from simple village to complex metropolis. Sumer's earliest archaeological layer is already organized, literate, and urban. The cuneiform tablets they left behind, thousands of them, are the world's first written records. And those records describe kings who reigned for thousands of years, gods who descended from the sky and taught humanity the arts of civilization. A great flood that wiped out an earlier world, survived by a single righteous man who preserved humanity aboard a massive vessel. That flood story predates the biblical account of Noah by over 1,000 years. What did the Sumerians know that we've classified as religion but might have originally been history? Researchers like Zecharia Sitchin spent decades arguing that Sumerian texts describe literal extraterrestrial contact. Mainstream scholars dismiss this, but even mainstream scholars admit they cannot explain how Sumer appeared, fully formed out of essentially nowhere. 12 civilizations, Hyperborea frozen under Arctic ice, the Maya whose astronomy still staggers astrophysicists, Atlantis whose mythological metal turned up on the ocean floor, Kumari Kandam whose sunken city was found exactly where the text said, Tiwanaku whose stonework breaks our theories of what primitive tools can achieve, Mu whose memory echoes in flood myths on every continent, Agartha hidden below, Akkad whose capital has never been found, Avalon hiding in English marshland, Shambhala protected by mountains and searched for by governments, Iram buried under desert sand until a satellite spotted it from orbit, and Sumer, which appeared with full civilization already running, and left records of an older world beneath it. Here's the question that should keep you up at night. If this many civilizations could rise to extraordinary heights and fall so completely that we only find fragments of them thousands of years later, what does that say about us? What will be left of our civilization in 12,000 years? And more unsettling, what civilizations from our future are we currently, unknowingly, sitting on top of? The evidence is still being pulled from the ground, from the ocean floors, from beneath the ice. History isn't behind us. It's beneath us.